Hi, I'm Joy, and this is Pilates Perspectives. Today we have Elizabeth Larkham to talk with us about Pilates and rehabilitation. But before we get started, let's check in. So today's sensation is sound. So I'm going to ask you, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, to just pause for a second if you can. And if no one's around, or even if someone is around and you don't mind, let's just start with an Om sound. Ready? Om. Keep going. Can you feel the resonance on your lips? Mm. Can you feel how that livens up your mouth? Or the tingling on the top of your palate? The slight vibration of your tongue? Om. Can you also feel how that settles deep into your body and resonates? Sometimes, depending on if you're sitting or standing, it can resonate all the way down into your pelvis and down your legs. How the sound can be grounding. Let's try it one more time. Om. Thanks for doing that with me. Elizabeth is a Pilates instructor, educator, and co-editor of the 2025 publication, Pilates Applications for Health Conditions. It's a 2-volume, 900-plus page set that you can find at Pilates.com. Her private practice and E. Larkham Movement Systems are headquartered in an historic home built in 1898 in Georgetown, Texas. She's currently working with Handspring Publishing for a new book that will use the past decade of fascia research to inform movement and practice and education. This serves as a continuation of her first book, Fascia in Motion, Fascia-Focused Movement for Pilates, published back in 2017. Oh, Elizabeth, I'm so looking forward to this conversation. Okay, woo-hoo! I am here with Elizabeth Larkham, who has just actually done, which you can't see, a lovely little spray of the set. So actually my first question to Elizabeth is, Elizabeth, when I first met you and came into a classroom, the very first thing you did was give it a little bit of a spray. Tell us why. What does that do? What sprays are your favorite?
Oh, so many favorites. This particular one I brought in today is Happy Lights, mood boosting misting spray.
Well, I could smell the citrus. It actually, it does work.
Yes, so for some cognitive clarity, Joy, right there with you.
It also sets the stage for the classroom, doesn't it? It takes a minute and everybody stops, listens. They get a sensory experience.
Absolutely. And it kind of lightens it up.
Yeah, fantastic. And then they walk into whatever your offering is.
And we collaborate on it. We create it together.
Fantastic.
Because it's a space of collaboration, as it is with you.
I was going to say, and here we are in another space of collaboration. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Yes.
So happy to have you on Pilates Perspectives. You know, this is something I've always wondered, right? I went to the first Body, Mind, Spirit, went into a classroom, and there you were. And you were always self-realized. As this Pilates guru, right from day one. But I know that that doesn't happen that way. So can you tell me about your first Pilates experience or your encounter with Pilates?
Absolutely. I saw this paperback book on the desk of the ballet studio where I was teaching. This was on the border of the Stanford campus between my undergraduate and graduate years. I picked up this book by Philip Frieden and Gail Eisen about Pilates mat exercises.
I know the book.
I thumbed through the book. I put it down. I said, I cannot learn Pilates from a book.
Says the woman who just wrote 2 large volumes.
And that was in 1978.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So a little bit of time had to elapse, and I had to mature and get over myself. There I was in 1985 in the Mission District of San Francisco, getting ready to go across the floor in a Limon-based modern dance class. And the woman in front of me, Margaret from Australia, turned around. She said, "Did you know there's a new place in San Francisco where dancers can take care of their injuries?" So there you have it. When the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Okay, so from there, did you just knock on the door?
Well, I just gave a call
Uh-huh.
to the Dance Medicine Division of Center for Sports Medicine at St. Francis Hospital, 900 Hyde Street.
Fantastic.
And Patrice Whiteside, who was the founding instructor, she said, "Sure, come on down." So I went through the San Francisco hills and walked into the Dance Medicine Division at Center for Sports Medicine, which was carved out in the basement of the hospital.
Uh-huh.
No windows, no natural light, no skylights. And this was found space in the medical records area, the medical records closet.
I was just going to say I have visions of a closet and lots of files around.
Yes.
And, yeah.
You got it, Joy. So I walk in, and there's Patrice, welcoming smile, and there are 2 wooden studio current concepts reformers. I'd never seen them before, but the moment I got on them, I knew I'd found home.
Oh, that's fantastic, Elizabeth. And what was your learning journey from there?
Well, I was just like like they say, a duck takes to water, but the reformers were like jungle gyms for adults.
Uh-huh.
And in my earliest memories of childhood, I just loved playing outside on dynamic surfaces, roller skates, unicycles, bicycles built for 2.
Unicycles, wow.
Oh, the whole thing. Swings that you could catapult over the backyard. And so every time that I went as a self-referred conditioning client, because people could come to the Dance Medicine Division as either physician referred, and in which case they would be billing their insurance, or they could come as self-referred conditioning clients. And I came, as many dancers did, and I think the fee per session might have been something like $10 to $15.
Oh, fantastic.
1985, there you go.
So you just spent a lot of time in there and you just soaked it up.
I did.
That's great. What a wonderful story. What a wonderful start. I just went through some of my family photos, and there's pictures of my daughter when she was about 8 on the equipment. I remember thinking then something you just said, that really Pilates is very much play for adults.
Yes.
And it provides sort of that environment to just let go and to be free and to play. So that's exciting. Can you talk a little bit about St. Francis? So what led you to start to work at St. Francis, and because you were there at a very pivotal time, not just for St. Francis, but for the whole of the Pilates industry.
So true. And it's such a pleasure to be talking about it with you from this perspective. Dr. James G. Garrick, an orthopedic surgeon, was recruited from the University of Washington in Seattle, where he was the team physician. And St. Francis Hospital was recognizing that what had been the purview of professional sports, professional athletics, sports medicine, was going to be an important contribution to make to the general population. So they wanted to prepare for a Center for Sports Medicine. And when they recruited Dr. Garrick to come to San Francisco to start up the program, he specified that he wanted to have a dance medicine division, because he had been the physician for skaters and for rhythmic gymnasts and for dancers. He recognized, having seen the reformer demonstrated at a dance medicine conference in Los Angeles, Dr. Garrick recognized that the way to keep dancers compliant with their rehabilitation protocol necessary to get beyond the overuse injuries was to keep them proprioceptively aware, tuned up, and kinesthetically challenged, so that they wouldn't think that they were losing ground by not attending daily technique class.
That's fantastic. So was the actual studio in the space prior to Dr. Garrick?
Oh, no.
This all happened after he came to
That's
St.
right.
Francis.
The whole thing was built. The whole Center for Sports Medicine and Dance Medicine was built specifically to his, or carved out specifically to his specifications.
Terrific.
And he brought on complementary physicians, physiatrists, other practitioners in the performing arts medicine field. He brought on physical therapists.
So ahead of his time.
Absolutely. And we owe him a huge debt of gratitude for bringing us this far.
And you started to move into sort of working in the space at the same time?
Well, first I had to put in my time to be trained in the specific vocabulary. And also the census at the center was growing very rapidly because this was the only place in San Francisco, the only place in the world where Pilates had been embraced in a clinical setting.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph Pilates tried to
Right.
get that
Yep.
when he...
With Eve Gentry.
Yes, when he met with Eve Gentry and demonstrated to the physicians in New York. But he was ahead of his time, and his work was not embraced, whereas it took a mainstream hospital with an orthopedic surgeon. So the census was growing, and Patrice Whiteside, who had been the principal dancer with Oakland Ballet and one of Dr. Garrick's patients, Patrice had been shepherding the program and organizing it impeccably well. When she needed someone to work alongside her, it was time for me to get trained in the Ron Fletcher techniques, because Ron Fletcher was the person who had set the 10 exercise curriculum that was taught to us by Diane Severino and Michael Podwall.
Oh, fantastic. So let's talk about then, you're in a rehab setting. You yourself came, though, as, voluntarily as a conditioning client, and I'm sure many others as well. So tell me on the rehab side, back then, what was your sort of like canvas, your artist's canvas, if you will?
Yes, it already had the outline, the distinct outline of a clinical setting where this was a hospital. Patients came for rehabilitation to Center for Sports Medicine.
Mm-hmm.
The physical therapists on the staff would give assessments to the physician-referred patients. And the physical therapist would note what were the patient's short-term and long-term goals. Then the physical therapist and the referring physician would introduce the patient to the dance medicine specialist. This was a term that Dr. Garrick had coined, one word, dance medicine specialist, try to give us some elevation, I suppose. And it would be our responsibility as the dance medicine Pilates specialists to come up with the specific movement sequences that would help the patient realize their short and long-term goals. We would document every session, which was an hour. We would document the session according to the SOAP notes, subjective, objective assessment plan.
Mm-hmm.
So there would be medical records that could be given sent along with the physician report, so that the physician could evaluate the appropriate progress and then make a decision as to write another prescription or make a different recommendation.
I really wish that this was ahead of its time. I really wish there were more facilities that were embracing this style of marriage between movement therapy education and rehabilitation. That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
It was a blessing that I didn't know how fortunate we were at the time. I was just like a fish swimming happily in this aquarium. This is the atmosphere we lived in.
Yeah.
I think now it really is currently, you and I are speaking in August 2025. I think now it really is up to the physical therapy and wellness centers that are not necessarily part of the mainstream medicine, but they can create their own environment in order to make an integrative treatment environment and wellness setting.
So how has this imprinted on you first of all, how long were you at St. Francis?
I was there for 15 years.
You were there for 15 years?
Yes.
And in that time, how have you seen the integration of Pilates with physical therapy, and how do you see it today?
Yes. At that time, we could see progress almost weekly, because there was a lot there was a buzz within the sports medicine and dance medicine community that the model that Dr. Garrick was supporting, put forth, was very efficacious. And the hospital was happy with it because it was a very profitable center.
That's terrific. Was there any research that came out of that you're aware of?
Dr. Garrick worked alongside with Ralph Requa, whom he Requa. Thank you, Ralph. And he had brought Ralph on to be his research director. So they were constantly gathering information and writing articles, putting them forth. Yes.
So now you, along with Madeline Black, just recently released your new book.
Yes.
Share that with everyone.
Happy to. Thank you so much. Pilates Applications for Health Conditions is a 2-volume tome
Two
of
volumes.
over 900 pages. Madeline Black and I were invited by the founders of Handspring Publishing to write a book about research in Pilates. And as Madeline likes to say, well, that would be a very short book now, wouldn't it? So instead, we collaborated together and proposed to Handspring that we write a book that had contributors. So we have 26 contributors. These are internationally recognized Pilates educators and practitioners, each of whom has a particular focus on a particular health condition. And each health condition has is approached through a template of 12 Pilates sessions in order to document the client's progress in terms of their gait. So it's gait-based assessment.
Right. So what's nice about this, from my perspective, is you've taken what we see anecdotally in the spaces that we create in our Pilates world, and what you've done is you've started to give it a framework that both can be qualitative and then ultimately taken into quantitative research.
Knocking on my own head, Joy. This is where we're heading.
This is where we're heading. I give a pretty big guffaw when you said that Madeline said it would be a short book, because we do struggle with really good, solid research in Pilates, but we do have plenty of anecdotal evidence that knows that we're all pointing in the right direction.
Dr. Garrick was not daunted by the fact that there was no evidence-based research for the efficacy of Pilates when he brought it on in 1985. He was convinced by his own anecdotal experience with his patients. And he also recognized that by embracing the techniques of Joseph H. Pilates in a clinical setting, it would help spur the movement forward.
Which I believe not only did he do, but it is happening as we speak. It's just growing and growing. So how do you think Pilates can continue to integrate with physical therapy for more of a holistic rehabilitation experience or rehabilitative process?
Well, by now, the complexity of this landscape, the myriad expressions of physical therapy and of wellness medicine, this landscape is so complex now that we'll look for integration any way we can. It doesn't just have to be in a doctor of physical therapy supervised practice. There are many rehabilitation specialists in physical therapy, in chiropractic, in physiatry, in other forms of, in osteopathy, who choose to get training in Pilates techniques so that they themselves can integrate these techniques into their interfaces they're working with their patients and their clients. There are other practices that hire movement specialists to work as adjunct members of the team, like we did at St. Francis, so that the physician or the chiropractor or the physiatrist, the osteopath, can use their skills, their manual skills at their highest level, their diagnostic skills at their highest level, and outsource to an appropriately trained movement educator.
As you're speaking, I have this side thought separate from what we've been talking about, but exercise physiologist, movement educator. I think we're moving from moving literally from the word exercise, right, to movement to sort of better express the healing properties or qualities to the particular work of someone like yourself, for example. It's just something that I keep thinking about is we talk about being a Pilates teacher, being an exercise physiologist. And then there's something that sort of envelops both of them, which is like a movement specialist or a movement educator. What role would you say movement plays in rehabilitation or movement education, I should say?
From my perspective, a movement educator is someone who has who can appreciate the complexity of the human being, the human being in its all the various systems and the interactions of the different systems. And the movement, again, my preference here, and the movement educator can approach their collaboration with the person who's seeking information, can approach that in a very collaborative and respectful way, recognizing that the complexity is far beyond the linear thought process and needs the analytical thought process, but cannot stop there, cannot be contained by that, such that the movement educator in interaction with the moving person, can bring about a variety of skills that come from interdisciplinary study.
Perfect. When we had a break, you were looking at chapter 2 in your book. Sometimes when you go back to your work, something new, fresh eyes, something new comes to you. What were you thinking? What came to you?
Chapter 2 of Volume 1 of Pilates Applications for Health Conditions traces the best I could the techniques of Joseph H. Pilates and Joseph H. Pilates apparatus from at the time that Joseph Pilates was working in New York up till the present day. And I'm wanting to appreciate the past because it may give us an indication of where the somewhat confusing present, where we might be heading. And I was just noting that, yes, Joseph Pilates did his best to bring his movement sequences into a medical organization, but was not able to be successful in that way. We've had the opportunity to do that now, and times have changed a great deal since the times of Joseph H. Pilates. There is a health crisis of...
which he predicted.
He did.
He predicted. He talked about our society.
Yes.
Like removing natural movement from its day to day.
And here we are living in it.
Yeah.
This era of ChatGPT, when there's so many seductive reasons and distractions from being embodied or being saturated.
Distractions, I think, is a very good word.
From being saturated with the sensory and proprioceptive richness that comes from the superficial and the deep fascia. But when there's so many distractions, who can hear themselves move?
I know you put the goggles on. In your mind, you're doing so many fabulous things, but your body is not even moving.
This is tragic.
What do you see today as being complex? You referenced in the confusing world of today.
I have so much compassion for people who are drawn to be Pilates teachers now. It is harder than it ever has been. It was so much easier when I started. I was maybe 29. I mean, I started late compared to what people are doing these days. But at that time, there was not the demand for understanding the multitudes of Pilates informed exercise. Ron Fletcher Company gave us 10 exercises. End of story.
Oh, interesting.
And nowadays, there's been such a proliferation of different expressions of Pilates possibilities. There is also the onslaught of the visual onslaught, the visual assault from social media channels, in which Pilates movement may be sensationalized, or movement in the Pilates environment. On the Pilates Reformer, for example, it's sensationalized with complete disregard for polyvagal theory, complete disregard for the autonomic nervous system, complete disregard for biotensegrity. And, no one needs to hear from me, but I'm kind of over it.
Let me see if sort of encapsulating a little bit what you just said. What do you think are some of the key things that are missing? I think you're absolutely right. We've said here's like 1,000 things you can do, and then Instagram has another 10,000 things you can do. It's sensationalized. But if you were to distill it down into some of the key principles that you would like to see woven into the DNA of a Pilates instructor, what might those be?
Okay, then. To appreciate that the Pilates environment, and by the Pilates environment, I'm referring specifically to the equipment designed on the initial plans of Joseph Pilates. Yeah. And those variations, those include the reformer, the trapeze table, the chair, the ladder barrel, the spine corrector. Now, people who know me well, that's only the start of what we can work with. There is, thanks to Ken and the Balanced Body team and these exquisite engineers who work for Balanced Body, there are many variations on the reformer blueprint.
Right.
This environment gives Pilates teachers it's a unique environment for customizing vectors and customizing load through the tissues, through the bone, through the muscle, through the tendon, through the ligament, to the superficial fascia, the deep fascia, the viscera. I could go on, and I'm happy to do so, but not here. Okay, but I think that it's very important that people who are trained to be movement educators in the Pilates environment have an understanding and a reverence for the responsibility we have to customize the specific vector, the specific load for the specific person or group of people that we're working with.
I love that, because what you're doing is you're sort of expanding or evolving the possibilities that live inside of the Pilates environment. And we've had conversations about this in the past, which is not to hold on necessarily to dogma, but to take the foundations and bring it with you, right? So I one of the things or the complications I see for today is sort of this leapfrogging over the foundations. And the foundations, which, by the way, many of which evolved after Joseph Pilates died through the first several generations of teachers, yourself included, who realized that we need to teach the lay human body person how to move using this unique environment that was created. So stretching ourselves into new and evolved spaces, understanding different force vectors, understanding different ways of using the force applied on a reformer. We want to do so by having good, strong, solid foundations, movement foundations. And for me, one of the complexities is, how do we do that when the distractions of the world want to just take us onto the reformer and doing something that bypass that body's ability, skill-wise, to try to perform something?
Yes.
How do we kind of get back to those foundations? How do we find ourselves?
My preferred channel is to provide a transformative movement experience for for whoever comes to me, but specifically for the person who's drawn to at least explore the possibility of a career here.
Mm-hmm.
And I would do that by high novelty, low risk. Okay? Because there has to be high novelty, create a movement experience in a familiar environment. Say
Create curiosity.
Yes,
right?
Let's get that dopamine squirt going.
Yeah.
Okay, enhance the curiosity for, what could I learn next?
Right.
And that would that tends to get the person engaged in the proprioceptive intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
That is, it's a nonverbal intelligence. It's a nonverbal activity. Now, this high novelty, low risk, it's not only an unusual vector, unusual load, but it's accompanied by, say, for example, a breathing practice of opening the upper airways by a tongue mudra. Do this with me now. Touch the tip of your tongue to the roof of your mouth behind your upper teeth. And as you inhale lightly through your nose, scroll your tongue up and back to the soft palate, breathing in. And slide your tongue forward, humming in a low resonance. Now, did Joseph Pilates teach that breathing? No, he had nothing to do with it at all. But this is other things that I have learned through interdisciplinary study. So I use breathing and toning or humming breathing practices in order to change from a hyperstimulated sympathetic state to more of a parasympathetic state, so that the person will have enough quiet in their field to notice the difference of how they feel.
Well, I think these days finding the quiet in your field is getting more and more difficult.
Yeah. ChatGPT has a lot to say.
So let's talk about, you talked about bringing some of your interdisciplinary studies together. Back in 92, you were part of a trio that founded Polestar Education.
Thank you so much for opening the door to talk about this, because not many people recognize that Polestar, as you mentioned, was a three-way collaboration. It was Ken Endelman, Brent Anderson, and me. Those were exhilarating times in that each of us had unique skill sets, and those skill sets were complementary for the task at hand, for the mission at hand. Brent had completed his master's in physical therapy at the University of California at San Francisco. A member of his church, the Mormon Church, knew that Brent had a strong interest in musical theater and a background in track and field. This member of his church introduced Brent to dance medicine division at St. Francis Hospital.
Oh, here it comes.
Brent, here it comes.
Here it comes.
Buckle up.
Yeah, yep.
So Brent came over to observe. And of course, who couldn't, fell in love with this environment. It was just made to order for his next step in life, which was to open a physical therapy practice in Sacramento, the home base.
I only recently found that out. Yes. He's from Sacramento. Yep.
Yes. And this, at the time, Ken's company was called, which is now Balanced Body, was called Current Concepts.
Mm-hmm. Thank you to Balanced Body for making Pilates Perspectives possible. To experience the full potential of Pilates, having the right equipment is essential. Balanced Body has spent over 40 years designing equipment that supports all types of movement and bodies. From the compact, storable Metro IQ reformer to high-density foam props, each piece is meticulously crafted in the US of A to fit your needs. Head to Pilates.com to learn more.
In 1989, Brent enrolled in the Dance Medicine Rehabilitation and Conditioning Training Program that Patrice Whiteside and I were teaching at St. Francis Hospital. This was in response to the requests we had gotten from physical therapists, sports medicine professionals.
Right, to somehow codify what you were doing at St. Francis.
Yes, because it was unique in the Pilates education sphere.
Yes.
So Brent came and did his 40-hour training program with us in 1989. Then we stayed in touch. Brent came to Sacramento, opened his clinic, needed a dance medicine specialist to work with him, and Shelley Power came on board with Brent.
Also, I just realized Shelley's connection to Sacramento. I'm like,
where have I been?
It's been like the Pilates Mecca on the West Coast.
Who knew? Who knew? So I was so excited to introduce Brent to Ken, because Ken had been building Pilates equipment since 1976. And I had been teaching Pilates, developing hour after hour the dance medicine techniques that we used from 1985 till 89. And then I was so excited to introduce Brent to Ken, because I'd been going to conferences with Ken and working to propel that forward. So when Ken and Brent realized they were in the same town, just blocks away from, well, maybe it was miles at that time, away from each other, we just kept moving along. And finally, in 1992, the three of us had a meeting, and we founded the Limited Liability Corporation of Polestar. Ken was the person who came up with the name, because Ken...
He's fantastic with names.
At many things as well.
Yeah.
And he recognized that Polestar was the beacon for maritime navigation. So we all needed a beacon, and we needed a navigator,
right.
And there it was, Polestar. So the three of us we had complementary skills. Ken could build equipment. I could teach movement. That was my happy place, and specifically in dance medicine and rehabilitation environments. Brent knew what it was like to organize according to the Mormon Church, and he knew how to organize according to the templates for physical therapy, a continuing education.
Right.
There was nobody else in this space.
Mm-hmm.
It was ours to create.
So it's really one of the first opportunities to truly create a Pilates teacher training from beginning to end.
With clinical
With a clinical focus.
Rehabilitation focus, absolutely. Because at that time, Pilates training was available, but it was available on the apprentice method.
Right.
The people would go and apprentice with Ramana, apprentice with Carola Trier, apprentice with Eve Gentry. But ours, Polestar, was the first program to have modular education that would be accessible to clinical and dance professionals.
Now, for everybody listening, I think it would be really lovely to try to encapsulate that period of time. I've seen some of the photos. I've seen, and I've heard the stories of all of you at the iAdams conferences and various fitness conferences, lugging along a reformer, putting it in the corner, nobody knowing what it was, you and Shelley on it, trying to demonstrate. Were you all aware of what you were creating at that moment?
Joy, I could cry. I was clueless. I had no idea. All I knew was I couldn't believe my good fortune that I had found my people and I could get to do what I was put on earth to do. I didn't know business plan. I didn't know, there was no social media.
Right.
No one knew or cared how to say Pilates.
No one knew. Yeah.
No, I was clueless.
Now you want you want to know that, my email is joy@pilates.com. I used to have to spell out Pilates. Now I have to spell out joy. I have to say Joy, not I. But everybody's got Pilates. Yeah.
Oh, Joy, we're
that's because
lucky.
of those. But that's because of those days.
Yeah,
I mean, you were literally brick by brick, show by show, putting it together. Yeah.
That's right.
You have funny stories, or Dave Lippman tells funny stories of you and Ken sharing rooms.
Oh.
Something about pajamas.
Oh, something about pajamas. Ken and Brent and me, there we were at a dance medicine conference in North Carolina, something that time. There was the hotel fire alarm went off in the middle of the night. So we traipsed downstairs. Brent was in his tie-dyes. Ken was in his prison stripe. Well, his striped up and down. It's probably noteworthy. I cannot remember what my pajamas were, but there we were. That's right, because there wasn't a lot of money. There was a lot of enthusiasm.
Right. That's it's so terrific. It's the equivalent today of it's sort of that idea of like getting in the garage and like developing like the next like mega computer. You guys were doing that with the Pilates industry.
For the Pilates industry, we were.
Yeah.
It was exceeding grassroots. That's right.
That's so interesting to me that it was so grassroots, so much by word of mouth. What do you think the tipping point was?
I remember when I realized there was one. We were on the IDEA trade show floor in Orlando. And Serafino Ambrosio, shout out to Serafino from Rome. Serafino came over in his just the most gorgeous fitness shorts you've ever seen. And he took a look around the booth. He took a look at what Shelley and I were doing, and he said, I want to do that. I'm going to come with you to your course in Miami, because we were set to teach some of the Polestar modules, where Brent was teaching and doing his doctoral program at the University of Miami. So I remember that at that show, we had so much booth traffic that Ken and I looked at each other and said, oh,
something's changing.
That's right.
So with Polestar and with Ken, you made some videos, the VHS videos.
Yes, that's right.
And the Allegro One came out.
Yes.
And you made the famous videos. I say famous because when I started my training, I needed to practice. I bought an A1. I got my videos. And I can't tell you, Elizabeth, that your voice is still here.
Yes. Ken, while Brent and I were busy on our mission of teaching Pilates around the world through Polestar, Ken was continuing to innovate on the designs of Joseph H. Pilates equipment. And Ken came up with a portable, it could wheel around like a wheelbarrow, now known as the Allegro One. And Ken needed an education program that would launch the concept of group reformer classes.
And this was when?
1999.
Right. So for everybody out there who thinks group reformer is new, even in Joe's studio, he functioned in such a way that people came in for not moving in unison as a group, but independently as a group.
However, it was heresy that I would propose that we would have level 1, level 2, level 3 intro, level 1, level 2, level 3 of Pilates reformer exercises taught to instructors in a modular fashion with VHS tapes that which they could practice, in which we would distill some of the vocabulary from the vast amount of repertoire of Joseph Pilates, make it safe, accessible, and effective and functional in a group reformer setting where there could be 10 Allegro reformers that could be wheeled into a cycling studio. That's a cycling that in a handball studio that had been turned into handball court that had been turned into a cycling studio. And then we would, I mean, I still have a shoulder injury to this day from, thank you very much, rolling out the cycles and then rolling in the reformers. And there they were. Now, we needed a partner for this. We needed a fitness company that was known U.S.-wide. And fortunately, Bally Total Fitness wanted to upgrade their image. They wanted to get ahead of the curve. So we partnered Balance Body, Polestar, and Bally Total Fitness. Thank you, Norris, the vice president of fitness for Bally Total Fitness. Norris set up a training schedule that would, I don't know that I could keep up with it today, but I took a shopping mall tour of America, and I taught that Allegro One Reformer program all over this country in shopping in Bally Total Fitnesses. And many of the people who are leaders in the field today had their introduction to that, including Nico Gonzalez.
We interviewed Paula Marie last week, and that was her introduction into Pilates, and was with you at Bally's Total Fitness.
So to sum this up and make it very relevant to today's group reformer fascination, that was the template that indicated that Pilates reformer exercises could be taught safely, efficaciously, functionally well, and they could do so creating an economic model that was attractive to fitness settings.
Yes, and back then, that idea of modular, which is, of course, the way in which we're structured, it was considered heresy.
It was. Oh, yes.
So what gave you the strength to sort of stand in that uncomfortable space? Addressing fitness is certainly different than dance medicine. Teaching and breaking the Pilates into accessible and digestible pieces in the modular fashion. You were a pioneer in both of those things, as well as before that, the pioneer working with Brent. And we could just go on, and then the pioneer walking into, St. Francis. What from St. Francis to Bally's seems like a huge leap.
It actually was.
What made you take that on?
Thank you, Joy, for that opportunity, and for just see. This is the aquarium I swim in. So what difference do I see? That I think I really have been true to my own pole star in terms of my life purpose, being here to bring about movement expressions that are healthful, that support the vitality of the individual for their physical well-being, their emotional well-being, their cognitive clarity, and I would hope their spiritual brightness. So it never occurred to me to say, would Joseph Pilates have done that? Would Joseph Pilates do this? That's not my responsibility to know whether he would have or not, but it's my responsibility to be true to how can I bring my life purpose forward with respect to each person.
So how many years were you teaching at Bally's? What was
Well,
that?
I didn't teach at Bally's.
Right. I mean,
It was
you
a
were
collaborative
yes.
effort. Little known fact that we are launching this collaboration, and I had just maybe a month before accepted a position at Western Athletic Clubs that owned San Francisco Bay Clubs and high-end fitness clubs up and down the West Coast to come and be their director of Pilates and beyond. We started in 1999, 2000. And just after we'd inked the contract with Western Athletic Clubs, Norris invited me to come in and work full-time for Bally, being the Pilates director. So I appreciated that, but I had another place to go.
Mm-hmm. So now you're seeing today what is it's like it's new again, this idea of group reformer. What are you seeing today, and how does it differ from the early days of Bally's?
Well, there's a lot more performance pressure, that's for sure.
What does that mean?
Performance pressure for the instructors. I mean, nowadays, an instructor in a group reformer setting may walk into a room that has 12 equipment stations that could include balance body, wooden studio reformer, wooden exo chair, wall unit, BOSU, TRX, and it may be amplified by foam rollers, Pilates rings. So there is a tremendous amount of complexity available there. Not only there's the environment is like a richness of marvels, okay, but there are 12 distinct individuals there. None of them have been sent by their physician. They have probably brought themselves, fortunately brought themselves, or maybe brought by a neighbor recommending them. But each of those individuals has a distinct life health history. Mm-hmm. And they are all in there.
Belief system, life health history, physicality, physical intelligence, or intelligence around their physicality, movement ability. Yeah.
The complexity is mind-boggling. Mm-hmm. And I am here to tell you that I've been teaching for a year now at the group reformer place that's 6 minutes from my house. I moved to Central Texas, to Georgetown, just a year and 1 month ago in order to open a live-work studio in a historic home that was built in 1898. I'm here to tell you that I'm lucky that I can go home again. Mm-hmm. I lived in Austin till I graduated from high school, and then I left Austin to go to Stanford, and then I just made my way in the Pilates world for 52 years. And now I'm home, to Central Texas, where mother's 97, and group reformer studios are everywhere because Texas has a lot of land. So I have been teaching in this group reformer setting, and I am loving the challenge it gives for me to try to bring 40 years of Pilates study and serious application, and to try to do it justice in a setting with so many variables. I am never bored.
Yeah. So how has it expanded your skill set? Like, how do you bring Elizabeth Larkham into a class setting?
Well, there's the wanting to help illuminate each person's lamp. Mm-hmm. Okay. So there's that. There's also the fact that I've learned through the study of polyvagal theory that the tone of voice that you bring, the cadence of the voice you bring, will have an immediate effect on a person's feeling of safety or a person's feeling of being interested in drawing in. I also know that pacing and tempo is everything. Yes, there has to be high novelty, low risk, but if we go too slow, the kind of tempo that I would like to go on a one-on-one Pilates session, those people will never come back to my class again. And if I'm too rapid fire, like I'm giving a lecture with slides on biotensegrity, they're not going to come back again either. So we just have to find the sweet spot of getting the group to merge into some synergy, and then moving with a calmness and purposefulness forward so that everybody is embodied.
There's something about that moving in synergy that actually helps to take care or helps to shed some of those additional variables. Once people are moving to a cadence and a rhythm, the energy in that room starts to take on its own life, doesn't it?
Yes.
And those are skills that I think are so important for new teachers today, especially in the group environment, to understand and trust. Because as you mentioned, the performative factor, I have to get in front of this classroom, I have to perform for them. So it can get in the way of that.
Absolutely. But it's difficult in this era of social media. It's difficult to develop the skills of vocal communication and rhythm that brings a group of disparate people into synchrony, as you described, because lots of the social media onslaught these days is, as you described earlier, the person is fairly the consumer is fairly sedentary, and there's a visual input, but there is not a kinesthetic engagement. And that, in my opinion, in my experience, in order to be, I'm just wondering how many toes I'm going to step on here, so I'm just stepping out and stepping on them. In order to be a very effective movement teacher, one needs to have the experience of being embodied and being embodied in collaboration with the class.
Oh, I think that's it's funny you should say that, because one of the, as someone who is and I say this all the time, not that Pilates person, the embodiment was actually all I had in my learning process. I did not come as a dancer, so I couldn't look at it and say, oh, no problem. I had to figure out the steps, the progressive skills I needed to get there. And I think it's really a calling to come back to embodiment is really important as we teach new teachers. You are somebody who embodiment was always a part of it's just in your DNA.
Joy, it is. And I'll tell you why it is. At least our current understanding of it, that I'm the oldest of 5 children, and my younger sister, Daphne Stewart Larkham, was maybe born with and certainly lived with enormous challenges in terms of her physiology and her neurological development. She never learned to speak or feed herself. And I am doing this work because of our relationship. And so I learned so early on how it was to bond with or love or respect a person who didn't have the physical capabilities that I was blessed to be born with, but had yet such a bright spirit and such phenomenal musical intelligence. So I learned to modulate my voice in order to resonate with her and help calm her when she was in pain. So I think that our relationship shaped me, and I'm just lucky, really, really fortunate that the Pilates world is an aquarium in which I can use some of the skills that have shaped me since so early on.
Right, those experiences were so much a part of just how you entered the world, the larger world.
So true.
And I'm just so glad you brought Daphne up, because I remember the first time I had heard that story, I was so moved by it, Elizabeth. You had dedicated a performance to her. I don't know if you remember. I'm sure many you've dedicated to her. Your physicality has been so inspirational. Your embodiment has been so inspirational to so many. What would you say to a new instructor on this idea of not taking for granted the gifts that they've been given and taking their embodiment forward into their practice as a teacher or their profession.
Yes, yes. That all it takes is time, and it takes time in the Pilates environment. And by taking time, that means that it's not the amount of time it takes to look at a TikTok video. It's not the amount of time it takes to fast forward through a Pilates Anytime class right before going in to teach your own. Okay, but it takes time to hone the sensory and the proprioceptive specificity that each of us is imbued with, but rarely have the opportunity to be guided to develop, unless it happened at an early age or one had a good athletic coach. Yeah, it takes time. Now, speaking of being blessed and having the sobering experience of recognizing that it actually takes more time than I've been giving it, I have been learning over time that I cannot take for in my own physicality now, and thank you for the compliment, but in my own physicality now that I'm 71, it requires more time and more attention and more specificity of everything. I cannot take the physicality for granted. You know, the injury from when I was 15 is not getting any better, and the compensation patterns are getting more so. And the fasciocytes that are responsible for picking up levels of estrogen, they've been like wondering, well, where did that estrogen go now?
It was here.
That's right. So it's a sobering experience, and I'm just fortunate to be in a field where spending time in a studio every day, I live in one, is absolutely necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, no, certainly not taking it for granted. I always think, we do young and sexy really well, and we do very old and infirmed quite well. But
Joy.
this period of time of natural aging, the 50s and 60s and 70s, like it's sort of like, okay, we need to pay some attention here.
Yes.
Because we rapidly change and have to adapt and can't take it for granted. So we've discussed this, you have been absolutely at the forefront of Pilates and rehab. Now, I think everybody is discovering you're at the forefront of Pilates education generally and Pilates and fitness. How would you sort of, I mean, to me, those are three very distinct populations. Not only the rehab client, but the teacher of the rehab client, the Pilates studio teacher and client, and the fitness teacher and client. What are the common threads, and what are the things that diversify each, do you think?
Was wondering where you were going with that question, and you really circled the wagons there, Joy. That's amazing. But could I just, before we get too far away from the topic, I would just like to acknowledge the Danish Wounded Warrior Project, which makes a distinct contribution to Pilates and rehabilitation. And I'd like to mention that in the context of the Heroes in Motion project, which was part of the Pilates Method Alliance initiatives in, say, 2012.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, when did that start? I
2012.
And you were pioneering there as well.
Well, yes. Sure. The way that it came to be is that people can look up the Danish Wounded Warrior Project with Jessie Lee and Jojo Bauman. Mm-hmm. Jessie Lee and Jojo Bauman came over to San Francisco to study with me because I had been doing some work with Mike Podlensky at the U.S. Naval Hospital in San Diego to develop Pilates programs for people with prosthetic limbs.
Yep.
And that made our collaboration with Mike Podlensky, Jessie Lee, Jojo Bauman, and Adar Schwartz, a physical therapist in Israel. We created the Heroes in Motion program, and that's just a very important tributary of the vast river of Pilates and rehabilitation.
An important tributary and just sort of an inspiration. That project led many to see that they could target populations and offer Pilates as an empowerment tool. And I think that was a period of time in the sort of the early 2010s. It really shaped sort of a giving back with Pilates. So again, leading the way there. Thank you. And Jesse and Jojo, by the way, I haven't met everybody, but Jesse and Jojo, just shout out to them. They're two of the finest people you'll ever meet. So what great people to collaborate with.
Yes. Thank you for that sidebar.
Oh, no, I'm so glad you brought that back up.
Now we're back to the circle or the arc that you drew between what may be considered as distinct expressions of physicality, fitness, rehabilitation,
and our Pilates studio
environment. Yes. I tend to see the commonalities among all of them as in spokes from our hub of our wheel, and to my experience, the more we can see these supposedly distinct environments as expressions of human possibility in movement, the better off for all of us. That in terms of rehabilitation, there may be some societal pressure to have the opinion that something's wrong with me that needs to be fixed by some outside agent. I need a pill. I need a drug. You may. That's fine.
I need you to tell me what to do.
Thank you for saying that so succinctly. Whereas it's in collaboration with someone who has the skill set that's right for the person at that time, that a healing experience is possible. We're not aiming for perfection here because we're, living in human bodies. But as long as cells are turning over, a healing experience is possible. Now, in terms of fitness, there's so much pressure these days to look like herself, himself, their selves, who have been enhanced by any number of enhancing experiences. However, everybody is living in their body and will have a enhanced quality of life when they can feel themselves move with some confidence. We can do that. Now, in the individual Pilates studio, this is one of my many happy places where the essential work, the development work, is being done, not in a research lab, but in a movement lab. When an individual Pilates teacher has the luxury of focusing in collaboration with one client and truly customizing their movement experience, their cues, their home exercise program, if they're seeing a nutritionist, their nutritional program, their meditation, their polyvagal practices, come on.
Right.
That's where the development work is being done. The reason that I have had material that I can bring to the table is because I continue to spend my time 8 days a week, and oftentimes feels like 25 hours a day, developing material. And I just have wanted to do that since I started in Pilates in 1985.
The word that keeps coming up with you is collaboration. You're in collaboration with your students, you're in collaboration with your mentors, you're in collaboration. We're in collaboration here.
We are.
And in collaboration with the client, always in collaboration with the client.
So true. But now, Joy, you know me well enough to know that I'm not all that magnanimous, that I also, I remember, I think it was you who told me the quote, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Well, I'm almost old enough to realize now that I would like to go far. Okay. But in terms of always in collaboration, no. There are, I really want to be able to hear my movement voice. And when I wrote Fascia in Motion, Fascia-Focused Movement for Pilates.
Your first book.
That came out in 2017. That one had no collaborators in it. Now, the book that Madeline and I co-edited that came out just 3 months ago in May 8th, 2025, we had 26 contributors for that book. Grateful every day for the wisdom of those contributors, and I never want to do that again. It's like, whoa.
That might have been a collaboration on steroids.
If I took
took
drugs,
yeah.
we could have used them then. I'm telling you. That's right.
Elizabeth, how do you keep up with the latest literature? And where does your inspiration for what you'd like to study next come from?
My antennae are always up for listening to listening to lectures on tape, or listening to podcasts, or listening to people who are, well, I would say influencers, but that doesn't give them credit. People who are in the wellness space, that are speaking about things that I know nothing about. So I will listen to every episode I can, from Andrew Huberman, from Gabrielle Lyon, from Joseph Mercola, who's an osteopath. And those are some of the ones that come to mind right now. So that I can take on in audio form. In terms of keeping up with research, I rely on ResearchGate to read the abstract of articles. I'll attend webinars put on by the Biotensegrity Archives, Stephen M. Levin Biotensegrity Archives. I learned so much from Dr. Levin and the guests that he has on for that, because I'm constantly finding, I just find that interdisciplinary education is essential in order to help keep the Pilates environment relevant to the health crises of our times.
So the new book, 2 volumes, Pilates Applications for Health Conditions, with your co-editor, Madeline Black. What inspired the two of you to compile this work?
Well, I think because Handspring invited us, and we didn't know any better. So it seemed like a good idea at the time. But we also recognize, Madeline and I have both put in a good 4 decades of Pilates work, crossing over the arc of many social changes. And each of us feels, I think it's fair for me to speak for each of us now, feels strongly that we would like to make a contribution to help shape the field in a way that it can continue, that it can thrive, and thrive even better than it has so far.
Was there a gap of knowledge that you wanted to address?
Well, yes, indeed there is. Each of us bemoans the fact that communication specificity has been lacking in movement generally. What do I mean by that general comment? That there is, in the Pilates world, there are a variety of different vocabularies that a teacher might draw from. The teacher might be, we'll keep ourselves to the English language now because unfortunately I can't teach in any other language but English. But within English, there's the vocabulary of Pilates English, the swan dive, the elephant, the seal, thanks a lot, but that might not go far in terms of communicating with physical therapists in a rehabilitation environment. There's the English words for biomechanics field. There's the English or sometimes the Latin words for anatomy topics, discoveries. Then each research field that's relevant has their own language also. The densification of fascia. Well, we can thank the Stecos for coming up with that term of when the fascia layers don't glide and slide together. So there's all these melange of vocabulary. And then when I listen to, in the group Pilates environment, the group fitness performer environment, and I hear people channeling some aerobics lingo from the 80s. Now, I taught high-impact dance aerobics in the Mission in San Francisco, but I hope that I've gotten over that generalized cueing. So I was really, and Madeline also, we were tried to be very precise about choosing words that would convey in type, in print, just exactly what part of the body is moving where, when, and how.
Before we go to our rapid fire questions, is there anything you'd like to add? Anything I missed that you were hoping to cover today that we didn't get to?
Yes, I think it's been an undercurrent, but I am so grateful to Ken Endelman and the Balanced Body team, and you in Balanced Body Education, and Nora St. John for including me in the. I've never been an employee of Balanced Body, but I've always been one of the people circling in your orbit, and it really does feel like home. Every time I'm with Balanced Body, whether it's Pilates on tour or whether it's here in the home base of this marvelous manufacturing facility that's
Well,
been
you're
built
part of
here.
the central core of Balanced Body, by the way. Okay, rapid fire questions.
I'm so ready.
Okay, what's your favorite Pilates exercise and why?
You know, it's the one that I can't do that I should try to do.
Ah, I love that answer. What is your least favorite Pilates exercise and why?
It's the one I can do easily that's no longer challenging for me, so I should get over it and spend my time doing something else.
What is your definition of Pilates?
Pilates is the work, the movement sequences and the equipment that was created by Joseph H. Pilates. Let's be clear about that.
Fantastic. Where do you see Pilates going in the future? What do you hope for the community, the larger Pilates community?
Well, I have some prayers for it, and it depends on whether the day is things are looking up or maybe not so much day. And I think that I feel that the human need to be embodied in ways that are made accessible in the Pilates environment is such that Pilates, what's understood in the global grasp, the global non-specific appreciation of what Pilates is, I think that will continue. Now, there'll be many tributaries. There'll be TikTok Pilates, there'll be group performer Pilates, there'll be Instagram Pilates, there'll be get rich quick Pilates, there'll be all of that. I am putting my next 30 years of contributing to this field to bringing fascia-informed research to the Pilates field because I think that has the best legs of making sure that Pilates can be close as we can make it, all things to all people.
Fantastic. Elizabeth, I always enjoy our conversations. I think one of the very first longer conversations we had was you sitting next to me on a cross-country flight, talking me out of being concerned about how the plane was actually going to stay up. But I always look forward to all of the times our paths can cross. I was so grateful to you. I know the entire community is grateful to you, and thank you for pioneering and blazing paths for the rest of us to follow. So grateful.
It is my privilege, Joy, and glad to be here with you. Thank you.